Oh man, this is a fun topwater bait right now, and it's one of my favorite frogs to use. And trust me, I have a ton of different frogs I could choose from, but right now, this one from Z-Man, the Topwater Pop Frogz, wins the day. So let me show you how to rig this bad boy up, where to fish it, and how to fish it to land some largemouth bass. First, let's start with some basic rigging. This guy was designed to push water. As you can see, his little mouth is cupped here. So it's made to fish on top. So what you're gonna need to do in order to rig this up is you're gonna need a 4 to 5/0 hook. I personally do not skimp on my hooks anymore. I've had too many experience with my hooks bend out on big fish, and after those moments I'm like, no, never again. So I buy top of the line Gamakatsu real stout hooks, and I just set the hook like a mother. So this is a 4/0 hook. This is going to be your offset shank worm hooks. So I'm going to open these up. So this is going to be considered an extra wide gap. As you can tell, it kind of goes way down here versus a straight shank. It's going to have an offset bend. And what you're going to want to do is hook this up. So you're going to want the hook to end up like this when you're done. In order to do that, if you want the hook to pop up on the top, when you first start this off, you're going to run the hook out the bottom. So what you want to do is just kind of go in about 1/4 of an inch, pop it out. So it looks like that. You're gonna run this all the way to the offset bend, and that's kind of how it's gonna sit in there. And then you're gonna measure up kind of where you want that hook to be hooked in there, so this thing isn't wonky like this, or it's too stretched out. And so that's gonna be, for me, right about there. And you can see it popped out right in the slit like it was designed to do. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just kind of skin hook that a little bit so it doesn't pop out on a lot of my casts. And there you have how to rig up the Z-Man Pop Frogz on a 4/0 extra wide gap hook. And this is another, especially if you're a beginner getting into frog fishing, this is why I like this as well, because these Z-Man products, as you can see, are very elastic. And so if you haven't dialed in how to hook these up, and the margin of error, these are really nice because they do stretch so much. Versus a lot of the other plastics, they don't give a lot of margin of error for putting your hooks in there. All right, let's talk about the line you're going to want to use. With most frog fishing, you're going to want to use 50 to 60 pound braid. That's what you see here. And the reason you want braid, one, great sensitivity. You're going to feel anything. You're going to transfer a lot of power very quickly because there's very little stretch in braid. And also, if you catch a fish like we're at right now in the pads, this braid's gonna cut through a lot of the pads, and it's gonna be a lot easier to land that fish. So I use 50-pound Power Pro. I'll throw that link in the description below if you're looking for a great braid out there that's gonna perform for you. Now when it comes to a rod and reel, I'm gonna have this thing hooked up here in just a minute. As you can see, I'm just waiting to get this video done so I can get out there and slam some fish. But I have this is a Lose Mach 2 speed stick. The gear ratio on this is 7:5:1, so it's gonna be pretty fast. So for every time I turn this one time, the spool's gonna go around 7.5 times. So it's pretty high speed ratio. They go up to like 9 in the 9s. It's just the way I like it. I don't like sitting there with a low gear around the 5.1s or 6 because I got to sit there and spin it really, really fast. It's a lot easier for me to slow down a higher geared ratio reel than it is to do the opposite. And then what I'm going to want is a medium heavy rod. I'm going to transfer as much power into setting that hook as I possibly can on a Pop Frogz. So where do you fish this thing? I'm only reaching in the back of my kayak crate for 2 reasons: if I'm over top of grass and vegetation, or if I'm in intermittent pads like you see behind me. I'm going to throw this into pads, pop it through. It's going to stay on top because this Elastec is highly buoyant, and I'll show you a different way you want it to go down in the water column in just a moment. But basically going to pop this, it's going to push water. It's not going to be great at pushing water because this is super soft. It will push a little bit of water for you, and then whenever I hit a pocket, I'm going to sit there, and this is just going to float. Kind of give it a little tug, try to get that reaction bite from those large bass that are sitting under those pads. Now, pro tip, if you've never bought Z-Man products before, the melting point on these are a lot lower than your other plastic, and it doesn't react well with other plastics that you buy. So when you buy these and you store them, do not let them touch another type of non-Z-Man product, because these things will start to melt. It's weird. I don't know why they do, but they do. And also something to keep in mind, if you do store Z-Man products together, if you have a white frog and a green frog and you put them side by side, they'll start leaching their colors into one another in a matter of like an hour. And so keep that in mind so you don't spend a ton of money on this. store them in the wrong place, melt your plastics, or leach your colors. And some guys and girls out there, they don't like Z-Man products because of how light they are, which makes casting and accuracy a bit of a problem. Another thing about this particular lure, since the legs are so long and dangly, it makes it very difficult to skip this lure. All right, let's talk about the pro. What I like about the Pop Frogz kind of Z-Man product here is that you're only trying to bury one hook into the mouth of the largemouth bass. With a lot of your hollow-bodied frogs, you're trying to bury two, which just makes it a lot more difficult. You need a lot more power, and you really need to set that correctly in order to land that bass. So I believe the hookup ratio with these are a lot higher than with these, especially if you're a beginner and haven't mastered kind of setting the hook on a hollow body frog. You might want to go with something this to kind of as an entry level frog to start frog fishing. What I like about this versus these, this material is a lot more squishy, which is going to make it a whole lot easier for that bass to get it into its mouth as fast as possible. Interestingly enough, this is not how I typically fish the Pop Frogz. It is the most common way, and if you're just entering into it, it's how it's designed to do. But I usually will use a weighted hook when I'm fishing the Pop Frog because I don't think it does a fantastic job of pushing water, and I like to actually fish it a little bit below the water column. In order to do that, you're going to need a weighted hook. So that's what a weighted hook looks like. So this does a couple things for me. This is why I fish it this way. One, because the Z-Man products are so light, I can cast this thing a country mile and get it where I want to do it. I can actually skip it a little bit better than if it was weightless. And also what I like about this is whenever I let it pause, it starts to sink, and these tails just go absolutely crazy as this thing is sitting to the bottom. And a lot of times fish will come and smash it as this thing is floating, and it's giving me that natural action of the legs as they flicker through the water. Although this is great for bass, and that's how I primarily use it. Z-Man says this stuff's great for striper, fishing striper, great for redfish or even trout. So if you're fishing for those type of fish, this might be the jam for you. We all love topwater blow-ups, and though I fish this usually lower in the water column, there is one I always bring out for the top of the water column. It is the finesse frog, which I actually did another video on. I'll throw that in the description below. Actually, I'll just show that right now. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Good luck out there. See ya. Bye.